So, I just recently quit my job. And to be quite honest, since that happened, this is the happiest I've been in years. What's going on, family? I hope you're all doing well as shit today. I have a story I want to tell you that I think many young people need to hear, especially nowadays with all the pressure we have to pick what we want to do and go start succeeding when we're all kind of just lost and still finding our way. I want to tell you about my job, or in this case, my former job, and what I learned from leaving. So, to kick this off, I've never quit a job prior to that moment. As I mentioned a couple videos back, I'll link down to it below, I was formerly a plumbing technician. This is the occupation I chose to take on out of high school. Now, I had a job in high school. One of my friends opened a restaurant after I turned 16, so I took that on. But getting the plumbing job was my first time having like a real career job, if you know what I mean. I was one of the few in my grade who never went to college. I personally didn't see it as something that that had much to offer me in terms of value and what I want to do. But not going to college put me in a bit of a spot. If I'm not pursuing a degree, I need to make money. I never knew how to start a business as I was never taught to, or I didn't even know what to start. So after weighing my options, my friend Colin, who's 21, who recently became an apprentice, got me a job there. I started the morning after I graduated, literally the very next day. No partying, no nothing. I was determined to make a killing. I arrived the first day, making 14 an hour, and I did everything in my power to be a student of that job. I was a freaking sponge, man. I always made sure I was paying attention to the guy training me, always being on time and prepared, having a good attitude, and just trying as hard as I could to show that I was a potentially valuable asset. After about 5 months, Cullen and I showed we were capable of carrying our own weight to a degree. So, at 18, we were put in our own truck and declared technicians. I was freaking pumped because I'm thinking to myself, man, all my friends are barely through college, making nothing. I'm learning all these cool skills, customer interactions, I got commissions, and they trust us. I feel pretty damn good right now. I felt like I was kicking my adult life off the right way, and arguably I was. After some time in the truck, we were given a raise to 18 an hour. Now, this had me excited. Now, keep in mind, I work here Monday through Friday and my other job Saturday to Sunday that I mentioned earlier, so I was grinding 7 days a week. As time went on, I'll be quite honest, the honeymoon phase kinda ended. It started to feel like I've been there for a lot longer than I really had, but I kept working as hard as I could. 7 days a week, still. Now, this is where I started having second thoughts. I understood my situation and I truly appreciated the spot I was in because I was fortunate enough to have been in that spot to begin with and I earned everything I had. It was gratifying, I worked hard, and I'm reaping the benefits. But I realized I wasn't happy anymore. The reason for that was the amount of pressure I put on myself as well as the people around me. I felt that I was in such a rush to start my life, fearing potential judgment from other people for not having a college degree or a career picked out. I was afraid of spending any amount of time after graduation basically being a piece of shit. I wanted to have a direction, if you will. I thought about this a lot every day actually. I started having resentment towards my job, and the company didn't do anything particularly wrong at all. I was just, it was just where my head was at. I wasn't happy, and this continued, and I had talks with Colin about it, though I mainly kept it to myself. But I kept at it. I kept working, and the thought remained there. It was unacknowledged and growing. I was too afraid to quit. I was too afraid to tell my family. I was too afraid to even have the discussion with my employer. This was a heavy thought. It occupied my mind most of the day, inside and outside of work. But all of a sudden, coronavirus emerges in the United States, and now we're entering pandemic mode. My father has a respiratory condition that leaves him very susceptible to that. So I contacted my employer and I made him aware of my situation and made it very clear I was unable to work at that time. He was totally understanding, so for the first time in over a year, it all came to a screeching halt. Everything. I've always been the guy who prioritizes working. It keeps me busy, it feels fulfilling. But now, after 7 days a week, only taking Christmas and Easter off, I was suddenly presented with all this free time. This was all new to me. I had nothing to do with it. Everything was closed. I had no work. I was just doing nothing. So after a good 2 days of movies and video games, I said, screw that. And I tried occupying myself in other ways. I didn't have much to do, so I did a lot of thinking, a lot of self-evaluation. I thought about my situation. I thought about where I'd be in 10 years if I stayed the course. I thought about my dreams. I thought about my true priorities. And the conclusion I kept coming to was I was unhappy. It occurred to me that my unhappiness stemmed from the urgency to get that first job I thought would teach me some skills and pay good. I rushed. That was never what I wanted for myself. I learned that I valued self improvement. I valued communicating with people, finding their problems and helping them solve it in some way, or at least give them a look from like another perspective. I valued my personal health. I valued fitness. I valued making people around me happy. So, with coronavirus declining, my boss reached out to me with the hopes that I would return. I told him even though things are better, the threat still exists, and even if I'd be okay, I'd fear for my father's safety. So we set up an in-person meeting to discuss the circumstances and my timetable for returning. I knew going into this meeting, even before that conversation ended, what I must do. I knew then and there I was going to quit. I never quit a job before. So the thought of this alone was terrifying. I just told myself, dude, you'll be just fine. Do what you think is best for you. If they try to bully or persuade you in some way, stand your ground. The day soon arrived to have the meeting. Now, I wasn't having second thoughts, but the closer I came to having to articulate the words out loud to my employer and supervisor, the sicker I felt. It was also new to me, but it had to happen, so I walked in, I sat down in his office. He's one of those guys who, though he respects my stance on the coronavirus situation, believes it's heavily overblown, borderline a myth, and there isn't any excuse not to return. I knew this going in, but I didn't care at all. I spoke my piece, I explained my position, and was met with a great understanding and respect. I didn't think it would go real bad, but I also didn't think it would go that good. The meeting concluded. I shook their hand, walked out back to my service truck, grabbed all my tools, and left for the last time. When I tell you I left there feeling 1,000 pounds lighter, man, I felt 1,000,000 pounds lighter. It's honestly difficult to put into words, at least in a concise fashion. It's like all of my pressure, unhappiness, anxiety just left me. Like I said, they didn't do anything wrong, but internally, I was in a place I knew wasn't for me. I will never forget how I felt leaving that parking lot for the last time because at that moment, I knew. Then and there, I was in control of myself. That's what it took, but it happened. I swore to myself from that day on, every move I make will be directed towards building a career or future that implements all of my personal values. I left a situation that paid me almost 20 an hour, where I was independent, respected like everyone else there, given freedom at 19 years old. And I left that. Best decision I ever made. Ever. Those of you still watching, here is what I need you to take from this story. One day, we will all graduate. One day, we will all grow up. One day, we will all be forced to be an adult. We're going to have to make adult decisions and face adult consequences. One day, we'll be forced to look ourselves in the mirror and ask, who am I? What am I going to do with my life? What makes me happy? I promise you, you will only be happy when you take control of your life. You will only be happy when you understand what it is you love and when you direct that energy towards that goal and only that goal and sharpen that ambition. It no longer becomes about the goal, it becomes about the journey. And that is truly fulfilling. It won't even feel like work at that point. I mean, look at me. I quit my job to pursue YouTube because I feel that's what I must do for myself. Every day, you need to challenge yourself to take a step in that direction, no matter how scary it is, no matter how risky it is. Not the direction your parents want you to go in, not the direction your teacher or classmates said you should go in, not where society claims you need to be at whatever age. Nobody knows exactly what it is they want for themselves growing up. And you need to understand that is 100% okay. In fact, it's great. The fact that you are aware that you don't know what it is you want shows that you have a desire to uncover what you want. That's a big step. That's a big first step. I implore you to focus all the time you need to discover what it is you have been put here for. If you're clueless, that's totally fine. Go try stuff. And if it doesn't work, one more thing you can check off the list and say you did. As long as you're not standing still and you are putting real effort into said desire, then you can do anything. Listen, regardless of what your family or society or anyone says you should be doing or should be focused on, you need to focus on what matters to you. Only you, zero exceptions. Only then will you be genuinely happy. That wraps things up. Thank you guys for watching this. It truly means the world. If you support the content, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when I drop more stuff like this for you. I hope you all find what it is you're looking for, because I'll be doing the same. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Take care of yourselves. Peace.